Hello, I am back because today is another really long and heartbreaking, difficult day that we went through. And again, I just feel like way too much to put into a written post. So we're just going to do another video. Hopefully all goes well with this upload. I'm so sorry, everyone. I don't know what happened with yesterday's post that ended up being posted today. I really struggled. So I don't know how today will end up going. But today is September 30th. So today is the day that Amity had her first major brain surgery to have a tumor resection. So like I had said in what should have been yesterday's video, Amity was on Q1 neurochecks with our nurse Caitlin all through the night. And Dr. Shimoni had come in bright and early in the morning around, I think, everyone says I have such a good memory. Sometimes I don't. It's a lot to remember. Every single detail, I think that I do a fairly decent job, though. I want to say it was around 5:30 a.m. He had come into her room, and I had signed the consent. And like I had shared in yesterday's video, Dr. Shimoni had shared that had we not brought her in and would move forward with this, that we would probably have lost her within the next couple of days. And so while I'm signing the consent, and for anyone who hasn't had any surgeries that they were having to sign consents for, especially as a parent for their child, and this is like the first time you're doing it, signing these consents is so scary, right? Because they have to tell you not just what they're doing, but all of the everythings that could possibly happen during a surgery. And of course, one of the things that could happen is death. And I was so scared. You hear that, you think, hold on a minute. I just found out yesterday that my 10-month-old daughter, my little baby, has a brain tumor that is very likely going to kill her. And now you're telling me that one of the risks of doing this surgery is that she could die. What are my options here? And I think that it was very reasonable for me to have had these questions in that moment. I know now, like thinking about it, I think, oh, that's so ridiculous, Jackie. Like, of course you're going to do the surgery because you don't want your baby to die. But in that moment, I don't really know anything about the possibilities and what's going on and what Amity really has. I mean, we know it's a brain tumor, and we're all saying that we believe it meets the characteristics of a cancerous tumor, but we don't know what it is. I don't know anything at all at this point. And so when we're saying that one of the potential risks of doing the surgery is death, I have a lot of questions. So it's 5:30 in the morning. I had barely gotten a wink of sleep. Amity is still very uncomfortable, and I'm rocking her, and I'm hearing all this news, and I'm crying, and I have a million thoughts. And so one of the biggest questions obviously is, if I say no to this surgery, what does that mean for Amity? And it was blatantly clear that if I don't sign off to have this surgery, Amity's going to die. That's all there is to it. And it wouldn't be the tumor that kills her. It would be the hydrocephalus. So we would need to be acting quickly to avoid that. And in order to act quickly, we would need to be completing this surgery to relieve pressure in Amity's brain. So, obviously, let's do surgery. I don't want my daughter to die, and my odds of keeping her alive and as well as she can be given the circumstances are better with doing the surgery. So again, I know it's like, obviously you would do the surgery, but until you're in that moment, it's like you have a million thoughts, and you're really thinking through what are her options and what's going to be best for Amity. Not for me, but for Amity. And so the surgery was obviously the best option after I talked to Dr. Shimoni, and he was so just, he's so great too. He was very empathetic about the situation, and you know, put his hand on my shoulder and really tried to be compassionate about the situation. But he is also a very assertive, direct surgeon. I mean, he is a neurosurgeon, and what he's doing is so serious. And he has such professionalism with the things that he's doing, and the way that he talks to you and how he shares information. And he really makes sure that you, as the caretaker, one, are taken care of. He was very adamant that the hospital doesn't just take care of Amity. The hospital takes care of you as her parents as well. And so he really set the bar for that at the hospital. And we just adore him. And he saved our daughter's life, really. So we have so much respect for him and everything that he did. But I'm getting us a little bit off topic. So I signed the form. My husband wasn't there yet at this time. He had stayed home with the dog overnight and was coming on his way to the hospital at this point. So I went ahead and signed the consent form. And we were just waiting for her to be able to go down to surgery. And now they had told me that it would be around 6:30 in the morning that they would take her down. And now there is so much about hospital life that I wish I would have known that first day. I have a lot of guilt about her being taken down to surgery, so I did not know about PACU, which is another video to talk about with PACU and Amity. But the PACU is where you go pre-surgery and post-surgery for like getting all your consent signed and everything like that down in PACU, which we did in PICU. But you also kind of wait there until they're ready to transport the patient to the OR. And now I didn't know this, right? So I'm starting to walk. They have two transportation people, whoever I don't know their roles, their titles, but they're staff members of the hospital that transport the beds with patients on them. And so there were two guys who were wheeling Amity's crib while she was sleeping in it. And Jamie had been our nurse that morning, and I can barely see. My eyes are so swollen. And I'm walking with her. We're walking out of the PICU, and Jamie said to me, "Okay, you know how to get back, right?" And I was just so overwhelmed that I thought that she meant like back to the room. And I thought, well, oh, okay, I have to go back to the room. And so I turned around and I started going back to the room. And I know now that Amity would have gone to PACU and waited there by herself until she went to OR. And I just feel so bad about that. I feel so bad. She was sleeping, so she probably doesn't even realize, and everything was probably fine. But I carry a lot of guilt about that because I'm her mom and I should have been there, and I wasn't, because I was confused and tired and overwhelmed, and wasn't understanding what was happening next is kind of really what happened. But and it was no one's fault. It's just a lot that's happening and a lot to learn in hospital living. So I wasn't down in PICU, but I'm sorry, I wasn't down in PACU because I was down in PICU. And I waited. Then my husband got there shortly after, and in my mind she had gone directly to surgery. I didn't realize she was going to PACU prior to OR. So this would be the morning that we meet Dr. Lambert, who we also love so much. He is one of the PICU doctors, and he basically filled us in on everything that's going to be happening. Amity's going to be undergoing a 5 to 7 hour open brain surgery, and we're going to relocate your room. So they had us in 14 and they were moving us to 5. I don't know why, but they were. And so he kind of just was giving us the lowdown of everything that would happen that day. And so I went, took a shower, and then we decided that maybe we should just go out, get some breakfast, and just try to be cool about this whole thing. As cool as you can be. Certainly not cool as a cucumber, but try to be. It was tough. So they call you every hour on the hour throughout the surgery so that you are informed of how things are going, whether that be good or bad, and let you know that they're still in active surgery. And so surgery started around 8:30 then in the morning, and every hour on the hour we got a call. Everything was going well. Things are still going fine. Amity's doing well. That's really just all we would get every hour, which is not bad, right? Because that's a good thing. If things are going well, then there's not much to share. And it didn't make it any easier because you can't do anything. You can't sit there by her side while she's has her head open on a table, having a tumor removed from her brain. And so it's very hard to feel helpless in certain situations, even though you know there's nothing that you can do to make anything different at this point. So we hung out. We went to breakfast, and then my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, Nicole and Justin, drove out to Danville and spent from lunch through the rest of the day with us. We kind of walked around Danville and got to know the layout of the land kind of thing. And then we hung out in the parking lot for hours because Nicole and Justin couldn't come in. COVID, you can't have visitors at the hospital. So we just hung out in the parking lot and talked and cried and talked and cried and waited until they told us that she was out of surgery. So Amity was finished with surgery after 12 hours. It was 12 hours from open to close, and 9 hours of active surgery, which means that Dr. Shimoni was actually inside Amity's head doing a tumor resection surgery for 9 active hours. That is just incredible and scary and insane and amazing, and there's so many words to describe how just absolutely nuts that is, right? That one person can be so hyper focused for that amount of time, but 12 hours in total because of all the closing time and the opening time and everything that is encompassed in completing a surgery. I'm just baffled and amazed and so happy that Amity was blessed to have such a fantastic neurosurgeon to do these surgeries. So 12 hours in total. It seemed like a year. It was a really long time to not have her out of surgery and not know what's going to happen moving forward. But she gets out of surgery. They don't bring her to PACU. They move her directly to PICU. So like I said, they moved us to room 5. And I cannot even tell you how absolutely awful it is to see your baby come out of surgery and be so uncomfortable. She really is amazing. Amity is such a strong little girl. I couldn't imagine going through that at 10 months old, but she did. And she came out and she was angry and crying and uncomfortable and all of the things that anybody would be after a major surgery like that. It was very hard to see blood on my daughter's head and the incision lines. It's a lot to take in. It was very traumatic, and I'm a crier. So I was hysterical. The whole thing was crazy. Liv was our nurse that night. Also, we love Livy. We love Riss. Oh my gosh, I just like, they're just, we love all of our girls. This is also the same night that I was reconnected with Christine. So for those that are my high school friends, know that we lost a very special person, Janine Pavlica, to brain cancer in high school. When she was just 16 years old. And Christine Pavlica is her younger sister. And it's such a small, small, small world, I'll tell you what, because Christine grew up and became a PICU nurse at Geisinger and Danville. And so we were reconnected that night. Christine and I, she had come in and brought us like a little gift basket of like snacks and drinks and water and things like that, to just kind of hold us over and sort of feel comfortable in such a terrible situation. And so it was really nice to be reconnected with her that night. Terrible night, but it was really nice for that. So Christine was not our nurse that night, but Liv was on and was Amity's nurse. And I want to say Marissa was helping out because Amity was coming in from the surgery. They all kind of like help each other, especially with bigger situations like this. And those girls in PICU, they do not mess around, right? Like their patients are high need. That's why it's an intensive care unit, and they've got it going on. Oh my goodness. So shuffle and buffle. Same as when we were on Children's 3, there is no messing around. Business is business. And in Amity's condition now, it's even more serious and intense. And so they're pounding out her chest from to remove excess mucus that might have built up from when the tube was down her throat, because the tube for anesthesia was down her throat for 12 hours to continue giving her air. And that can cause a lot of issues and mucus buildup. And so they use like the little like plastic pillow pad thing, and they just beat the chest to break the mucus off of the walls. I don't really know all the details because I'm not a nurse. I just know what they were doing, and it sounded like they were beating her. But that's what you do. So all of that is happening, getting her settled in the room. And I'll just never forget Amity's face. She just was so uncomfortable. And when I look at her head, I see this line coming just right about here. So like in the, almost toward the back, but on her right side, coming out of her head, stitched in, and like orange in color. And I'm thinking, what the French toast is this? Not as PG, but I'm freaking out. I don't understand what's going on. So Dr. Shimoni comes in and talks to my husband and I, as they always do post-surgery. Your surgeon will come in and talk to you about how the surgery went, what they were able to do, details, questions, what have you. And he shared with us that he was able to successfully remove about 40 to 50% of the tumor that was in there. And so for him, that was successful. For me, I guess I had higher expectations, not knowing really what was happening in there. I guess I was just hopeful that all of it would be removed. Again, naive, new hospital mom. I don't know what to expect. So he was able to remove 40 to 50% of the tumor, and he had to place what's called an external ventricular drain, and that is in short EVD. And so what it does is it's like a little plug, essentially like a catheter of sorts, that is tapped right into her ventricle, and then will drain off any excess cerebral spinal fluid that her body has not yet been able to reabsorb and that hasn't been removed during the surgery. And so the EVD is in to help make sure that her ventricles are not continuing to swell, and also monitoring so that they don't collapse either. And so the EVD was a real challenge for us, because the way the EVD worked is that wherever her ear was exactly where the bag, they have like a drain. I don't know the medical terms. It's some kind of drain that is where they release every hour the cerebral spinal fluid from, okay, so if it's over here, draining down into this bag. But the notch for where the 0 was at on this marker needed to be exactly level with her ear, because if it wasn't, we could be risking that her ventricles either swell up or collapse, which is obviously could potentially be life-threatening. And so that is so hard with a baby, especially me who wants to hold her and love her and do all of these things. I wasn't allowed to hold her when she got out of the surgery, and that was really tough for me to not be able to hold her. I wanted to swoop her up so fast and just smother her with love, and I couldn't, wasn't allowed. So that was really hard for me too. But closing the day, I was sweet talked, I guess, with so much reluctancy to stay at the hotel that is right in the parking lot. I mean, basically in the parking lot, it's literally on their lot of the hospital, because she will still be on Q1 checks. And all the nurses were basically like, you're probably not going to get any sleep tonight. We promise you that Amity's going to be okay. If anything happens, obviously you're the first person we would call. Second to whoever, whatever the doctor would need to be doing to get in there and fix whatever was going on. But if anything ever happened, they would reach out to me. And so I, at around, it was 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, reluctantly went down to the room to get sleep. And so that ends September 30th. My daughter is a baby superhero, truly. Who just got pushed into a life-changing surgery. She's an amazing little baby. She really is. So, okay, I wanted to keep this one shorter today so that you didn't have to listen to me ramble on and on and on and say a million times. So I did it again. So I'm going to end it today. And again, I super appreciate that you all keep Amity in your thoughts and are always talking about her and are willing to continue to read my posts and watch my videos and hear us out. And so thank you so much. And as always, I love to end everything with letting my baby girl know how much I love her. So I love you so much, Amity. I'm always thinking about you and I miss you so much.